Good morning, everybody. I am so excited to be here. We're doing the Healing Your Heart and Soul from Betrayal 2-hour clinic with some of my favorite experts in the world. And before we actually get started, I'd love to know where you're all from. So if you could just put in the chat 2 things, the city you're coming from, and if you've read The Love Thief, just put yes. Could you do that now? Just put in the chat, where are you? And if you've read The Love Thief, put in yes. And I'm gonna see if I can figure, oh, look, London, San Francisco, New York, Toronto, Seattle, LA, Switzerland, oh my God, Boynton Beach, Virginia Beach, El Dorado Hills. This is fantastic. I'm so glad you're all here. Well, as you're letting me know whether or not you've read The Love Thief yet, I want to tell you a little bit about the book for those of you who haven't read it. It's a spiritual romantic thriller with a juicy revenge subplot and a surprise happy ending. And I wrote this book because I had so many girlfriends that had been in relationships with toxic narcissists and had been betrayed and been heartbroken and had their dreams crushed and went through this roller coaster of emotions from, extreme anger and rage to, soul-wrenching grief and sadness and depression. And I was on the other end of the phone so many times going, you're going to get through this. It's going to get better. And then I thought, I'm just going to write a book about it because not only have I personally lived it, but here are my 3 closest girlfriends who've lived these nightmare situations. And I thought I want to tell it in a way that is both funny at times, but also life-changing, life-enhancing, and has spiritual depth to it. And one of the reviewers of my book said the book is like Eat, Pray, Love meets Dirty John. And that's truly exactly what it is. And for those of you who have never heard of Dirty John, it was 3 different movies of the week and a series about a man who trolled this woman on Facebook, love bombed her, fell in love with her, and ultimately her daughter had to kill him because he was so crazy. So it's kind of extreme. But what we're going to talk about today is how to heal your heart and soul from the betrayal of, if it was a lover, great, or it could be betrayal of a friend or a business partner or a family member. And I've got with me 2 experts that so inform the book. The first guest is going to be Savi Saraswati, which is a mouthful. She is one of my best friends in the world. She's a holy woman from India, and I'm going to introduce you to her formally in just a second. The other expert guest is my dear friend, Dr. Debbie Silber, who's a psychotherapist and a total expert on betrayal. She was my go-to person as I was writing the book. I was like, oh my God, Debbie, he's just going to do this. How do you deal with this? What is this? Because I don't have a PhD. Maybe I should have a PhD in career change because I've had so many different careers in the world, but I don't have a PhD in people's emotional issues, which she does. So you are going to get the wisdom and the blessings of both of them today. Before I get into the formal part, I want to show you a picture. Okay, so let me see if Christine, can people see this well? Okay, so here, what we're looking at here, this is Jennifer Aniston, Halle Berry, Beyonce, Christy Brinkley, Sandra Bullock, Mariah Carey, Princess Di, Jennifer Garner, Ava Longoria, Maria Shriver, Gwen Stefani, Uma Thurman, Melania Trump, and Reese Witherspoon. Okay, now what do these women have in common? They're all beautiful, they're all rich, they all have a size 2 body, they're all, lots of women aspire to be like them. And the truth is, they've all been publicly betrayed. They've all had their hearts broken and crushed by toxic narcissists. So if that's happened to you and you're thinking, oh, if only I were thinner, richer, more beautiful, younger, this wouldn't happen to me. I wanted you to see, and that's not all of them. Those are just the ones I could easily think of and get pictures of. This happens to everybody. And it happens to really smart, attractive, caring, loving, kind women. In fact, if it's happened to you, I sometimes say, quasi-jokingly, it means you're special, because these guys don't go after ordinary women. And we'll talk about that more later. So in a moment, I want to bring on Savi G, as we call her. I met Savi G in Rishikesh, India, where most of the story of the love thief takes place. And I met her on an evening at the end of what they call Arti. All the gurus and sadhus and monks were out on the banks of the Ganga chanting with music. It was absolutely beautiful. And when the ceremony was over, she walked past me and I thought, oh, who's this American woman in orange robes? And she looked straight at me and she said, would you like to meet the guru? And I said, yes, of course. And she said, well, follow me. And I said, but I have 12 friends with me. And she said, bring them on. And that was in November of 2020. We met and she became a sister instantly. She's just amazing, amazing. But here's her formal introduction. I'm just going to read it to you. Savi is a PhD, spiritual leader, motivational speaker, author, and social activist. She's based in Parmath Niketan, Rishikesh in the Himalayas in India. She's originally from LA. She's a graduate of Stanford, and she's been in India for more than 26 years, where she gives spiritual discourses, satsang, meditation, and leads myriad humanitarian programs around the world. She serves as a unique female voice of spiritual leadership throughout India and the world, and she's often at the United Nations and speaking on stages where almost always she's the only woman spiritual leader on the stage. She's really special. She got to India. She didn't plan to go to India. She was not a seeker. What she was a foodie for vegan food. And she ended up in India, and she ended up getting lost and walking through the grounds of an ashram where all kinds of amazing things happened to her, including meeting her guru. Now, why did she need a guru? She didn't know she needed a guru, but she had a lifetime of pain. She was sexually and emotionally abused by her birth father. She suffered with drug addiction and bulimia. She was in and out of mental hospitals during her life. And even though she was a super smart Stanford grad, she had inner pain, which she is going to share with us today, how you can heal your inner pain. She's also the author. Let me get the book. This is her memoir. It's called Hollywood to the Himalayas, A Journey of Healing and Transformation. And it is a page turner of a book. It's a memoir that reads like a novel. It's absolutely stunning. And Hollywood to the Himalayas. So, Savi G, thank you for joining us. I'm so thrilled you're here. And please share with us your wisdom for healing from betrayal, from heartbreak, healing the spirit and the soul.
Such a joy, Ariel, to be with you, to be with this whole community coming together. Let's just take a moment, and if it's safe wherever you are, just close your eyes for a moment. Just allow yourself to really arrive into this space. Arrive into this moment. Arrive into your own breath and into your own heart. Just allow yourself to arrive right here, right now. Into your heart. and allow your awareness to merge into your breath. Don't try to change it. There's nothing to do. It's just an allowing of that power of attention, that awareness. Allow it to just merge with your breath. As the breath flows in and flows out. And on your exhalations, as you exhale, just allow yourself to gently let go. There's so much we hold on to. And as you exhale, just gently give it back to the universe, whatever it may be. Anger, pain, a false identification, a story you tell yourself, a mask, a role that you play, some expectation you're holding on to. As you exhale, just give it back to the universe and allow yourself to just sink deeper and deeper into the core of yourself. Slowly and gently. Allow the eyes to open, but allow yourself to stay anchored and grounded in that presence, in that awareness, and in that active letting go. I begin with this because chances are what you're going to hear today, we may share some, data you haven't heard before or a story you haven't heard before, but this isn't rocket science. Chances are you've heard some aspect, some version, some reflection of that which you're going to hear today. And yet, we don't let it in. It doesn't shift us. And that's why it's so important to really, as we embark on this beautiful morning together or afternoon or evening, wherever you may be, to really make sure that we're coming into it with a really open heart, open to receive, open to be touched and transformed. So as Ariel began so beautifully with Holly's story, so many of us have read the book, and if you haven't, I very strongly urge you to get out and get a copy. It's a fantastic read. She's betrayed. She's betrayed by a lover who's going to be her beautiful knight in shining armor, who's going to whisk her off to the land of happily ever after. She's betrayed by her best friend. And it's a betrayal that even if it doesn't mirror exactly what we've been through, every one of us can relate. Every one of us has had some experience in our life of being betrayed. The question becomes, why? Why does it happen? And when it does happen, what to do about it? How do we move on? So I thought I would take this beautiful, beautiful opportunity today to talk about the why it happens. Why do we even get betrayed? I mean, we're good people. We're nice people. We mean well. We're full of love and care and tenderness. It's very rare that any of us says, "Oh yeah, you know, I was just awful. I really deserved to be betrayed." It's usually by those to whom we've given so much of ourselves, of our hearts. So why? Why does it happen? And then what to do when it happens? And then how do we move on? So the why, the what, and the how. Beginning with the why. Ariel and I have had, over the course of our beautiful, beautiful friendship, so many conversations about karma and destiny, and why does betrayal happen? Is it written karmically somehow into our destiny that we are going to be betrayed? Well, yes and yes, meaning it's not all actually about you. The law of karma gives us a view of a tapestry that is much, much bigger than this momentary intersection of time and space. I was betrayed by this guy or this person or this situation. That's a current intersection of time and space. Karmic? Absolutely. And yet, isolated? No. Karma, you know, we talk sometimes about it being like a boomerang. What you do comes back to you. And it's a good way to raise obedient children. It's a good way to sort of scare people into behaving nicely. But the law of karma is actually much, much more intricate, much vaster. And it involves so many factors, so many threads that are more than just, well, I was a nice person. I was honest. I was giving. I was caring. I was loyal. Why did I get this awful situation in return? And there's a great story, one of my absolute favorite stories, perhaps my all-time favorite story around karma and betrayal, which comes from the Ramayana, but it also comes, it ventures into other beautiful scriptures. So I'll tell an abbreviated version of the story. The story begins, well, the way I'm going to tell it begins, with a king, King Dashrath, who is a very good king. He's the king of Ayodhya, and he has no children. Very much wants children, wants especially sons who will carry on the kingdom, who's going to become king after him. And he has several wives, but from these wives, he's not able to have children. Now, like in a movie or like in beautiful novels, we flash from this moment, we flash to a young man named Shravan Kumar, who's a beautiful, beautiful young man whose parents are blind. And he's taking his parents on pilgrimage because in so many religious traditions, the Hindu tradition notwithstanding, going on religious pilgrimage is considered a great boon, something that people really, really want to do, like going to Jerusalem or going to Mecca or going to so many other sacred places. So Shravan Kumar is carrying his blind parents on pilgrimage. He leaves them in a hermitage along the way, and he goes to the river to fetch some water. As he's fetching water, King Dashrath, this king of Ayodhya who can't have children, is hunting. He hears a sound by the river and he thinks it's a deer. So he pulls back the arrow on his bow and he shoots it. And it hits Shravan Kumar. He rushes around the bushes to see what he hit. And he sees this young man by the river. His lifeblood is draining out of him. And Shravan Kumar tells the king, he says, my life is over. There's nothing you can do for me. But my parents are blind and they're back in the hermitage. Can you please bring them this bucket of water? They're waiting. And please tell them what has happened. Now you imagine King Dashrath having to go back and to tell Shravan Kumar's parents what he's done. But he goes. And Shravan Kumar's parents curse him, curse the king, that just like we are dying of a broken heart today due to the loss of our son, so you will die from a broken heart due to the loss of your son. Now, he doesn't have any sons, but these holy people, these beautiful, pure people, it's believed in the Vedic tradition that, you don't have to be a saint or a mystic or a yogi to be able to issue blessings or curses. You just have to have a pure heart and be connected to the divine. So this curse that his parents give to the king now goes out energetically into the universe. It must manifest. So fast forward a few decades. King Dashrath has had sons. One of those sons is named Ram. If anybody's ever heard of Ram or Hanuman or Sita, this is the Ram from the Ramayana. And on the day that Ram is about to be coronated as king, King Dashrath is now in his elder years. Ram is clearly this epitome, embodiment of integrity, divinity, perfection. Ram is worshipped as this perfect son, brother, husband. The day that Ram's going to be coronated, King Dashrath's wife, one of his wives, comes to him and says, you remember those 2 promises that you owe me? Well, I want them today. And the 2 promises are, number 1, instead of Ram being coronated as king, my son, Bharat, is going to be coronated. 2, Ram must be sent into exile in the forest for 14 years. She doesn't want any threat to the reign of her son. Now, the king had several wives. Everybody was brought up together like one big extended family. But, in our minds and in our hearts, we tend to think small a lot and we have separation. So she wants the boy who came from her womb to be king. Ram should be exiled. So Ram gets sent off into the forest. That's the Ramayana. He meets Hanuman along the way. That's a different story. I won't go into it now. But here's the point. As Ram walks off from the kingdom into the forest in exile, covered not in royal regal gowns, not with carriages or chariots, but covered in leaves and twigs, the clothes of a mendicant, with nothing. his father, King Dashrath, starts to die of a broken heart. And as he's on his deathbed, he calls out to Shravan Kumar. Now, no one, of course, has any idea what he's talking about. Nobody knew of the kid he had shot with his arrow in the forest decades ago. But he knows. He knows that this is all part of that which needed to happen based on what had happened in the forest so long ago. And I share this story with you today because one of these core questions that always gets asked is, why Ram? Ram was this literal embodiment, epitome of goodness. Worship thousands and thousands of years later, scripture is written about him. I mean, we think we're good. We think we're kind and compassionate and loyal. Ram had scriptures written about him, worshipped, temples dedicated to him as the epitome of goodness. And what does he get? Betrayal. Betrayal by his stepmother, who he had called mom his whole life, whose feet he had touched. Betrayal of his father, it seemed. How could he take this promise he had made over his own son? Forget a promise, who cares? Ultimate betrayal. Not only not being coronated, but being sent off into the jungle to perish, to starve, to be attacked by wild animals. But it all had to happen when you see the full tapestry of karma. So this story is my favorite in illustrating how the tapestry works. In a lot of cases, we don't know why. And in a lot of cases, it doesn't really matter. What matters is here we are now. The Ramayana is not about the story of Shravan Kumar. It's about the story of a young man who, through no fault of his own, through something that happened long before he was even born, is now subject to this injustice, but how he takes it. There's a great parable of a young girl who complains to her dad about the trials and tribulations and problems she's facing and obstacles she's facing and hurdles in life from friends at school who are not being nice. And the dad takes her into the kitchen and he puts a pot of water on the stove and waits for it to boil. And into the pot of water, he puts a carrot, an egg, and some coffee beans. And he lets it boil for a few minutes. And afterwards, he shows the girl what's happened. The carrot has become soft and squishy. The egg has become hard. And the coffee beans have turned the water into beautiful coffee with a beautiful aroma that now can be drank. And he says to her, it's not about what happens to you. It's about, are you a carrot, an egg, or coffee? When troubles afflict you, do you become soft and limp? Do you become hard with a shell around you? Or do you become fragrant, bringing that aroma to everyone? So when we say something is karmic, yes, it is. And yes, in this moment where we are, where we find ourselves, what choices do we make? It's also really important to realize when we talk about karma that, as I said, it's not all about you. Those who are betraying you, well, they're just going through their own karmic journey. In Holly's case, he was a crook. Not only was he a narcissist, a toxic narcissist, he was a criminal. He had his own karmic package. She was collateral damage, you could say. And the same happens a lot in our lives. People can only bring to situations what they have. If inside me, there's anger, there's pain, there's impatience, there's frustration, there's dysfunction, that's what I'm going to bring to every situation. My favorite example of this is an air conditioner, right? What does it do? It gives you cold air. Now that's great in June, July, August, May in India. Not so good in January. But if you stand in front of an air conditioner in January and you get pneumonia, it's not because the air conditioner was somehow out to get you, or the manufacturer of that air conditioner, plotted and planned your downfall. It's because that's all the air conditioner has. It's got cold air. Even if it wanted to, it couldn't give you heat because it doesn't have it. And a lot of times when people hurt us and betray us, that's their karmic package in this moment. I always say everybody is moving through the world with a toolbox. What is in that toolbox is based on their karmic package. Do they have compassion? Do they have caring? Do they have tenderness? Do they have love? Do they have generosity? Or do they have selfishness, aggression, violence, dishonesty, impulsiveness, meanness even? You're going to get whatever's in that toolbox because that's what that person has. So when we think about karma, we think both the threads of our own karma, the threads of a much, much, much bigger karma, and the threads of the karma of the person who actually has done this to us. So that helps understand, okay, why? Great. Karmically had to happen. But now what? Now what do we do? Well, most of us want to kill that person or seriously harm them. I mean, in some cases, killing may seem too gentle. A lot of us want them to suffer a lot more than they would by just being killed. We want to make them suffer. We want to show them. We want to hurt them. We want to make them know what they've done. We want to hurt them like they've hurt us. And of course, all that does is hurt us more, right? They always say that plotting revenge is like drinking poison and expecting the other guy to die. So when you think about what to do, I've created an acronym for you all for today. And the acronym is HEAL, HEAL. It came to me as I was taking a beautiful walk through the forest this morning as the sun was rising. And I was thinking, what to do specifically? How do we heal? So the H of HEAL, and I love acronyms because it makes things a lot easier to remember. So the H of HEAL stands for honing in and honoring the truth of who you really are. Because when we are mixed up with someone who is a narcissist, we tend to lose ourselves. We forget who we are in all of this. We become just in relationship to them. And so when you've been betrayed, it's really important to remember, who am I? Who really am I? Practices like meditation, yoga, prayer, contemplation, of course, are, the cornerstone practices for this type of work. But also things like helping others, because what a lot of us lose in relationship with narcissists and in a lot of other relationships where we are taken advantage of is we only serve that person. And we forget the gifts that we have to bring to the universe. And so honing in and honoring the self includes that deep, quiet inner work. And it also includes remembering, what are your gifts? Do you make music? Do you make art? Can you bake? Are you good with children? Are you good with your hands in gardens? Can you serve in some way? Can you bring love to another? Because that reminds us, oh yeah, I'm a valuable human being, even though I may have been manipulated to think otherwise. So H stands for honing in and honoring that self in all of those ways. E stands for embrace. Embracing our friends, our family members, not the best friend like the one Holly had who was complicit in the betrayal and deception, but real friends. Those who can mirror back to us who we really are. Because again, a lot of us lose it. We lose it in the relationship first, and then we lose it in the betrayal because we literally end up becoming obsessed, consumed by that which has happened, by the story, by the drama, by our identification as a victim. And so close friends and family people who really know you, can reflect back, can mirror who you are that isn't in relationship to that person or this particular situation. They can help you find your way back to the fullness, the wholeness, the completeness of yourself. A stands for awareness. There's no right way to grieve. A lot of us, especially who are, really into and excited by and inspired by a lot of different self-help or development or motivational things, we want to follow a step thing, like someone should tell us how to grieve. Okay, here are your steps. And yes, people like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and others have given us maps. But there's no one path to walk that's right for everyone. Everyone does it differently. So the A stands for awareness and also allowing yourself to grieve, whether it's grieving of a person, whether it's grieving of an idea, grieving of a hope, a dream, an expectation, a fantasy vision you've created of what life is going to be like. Allow yourself to grieve in the way that is right for you. We talk a lot about self-care. And these are all aspects of self-care. When we are trying to box ourselves up, you must do it like this. Okay, you've hit the 14-day mark. Now it's time to go on to step 2. We're not really seeing and caring for the being we are. So allow your own process to unfold. And the L, of course, stands for let go. Because that's the critical aspect. We have to come to a place where we can let it go. Otherwise, it eats us up. It steals our lives. And literally, that betrayal becomes the defining moment, the paralyzing moment, the poisoning moment, the killing moment of our lives. So we have to let it go. Think about if you were walking down the street and somebody stabbed you. God forbid, but just imagine it for a moment. Literally, with a knife, somebody stabbed you. What would you do? Would you try to chase that guy down the street? Would you get everybody on the street to run after that guy and catch him? Or would you try to get everybody on the street to help you get to a hospital, to get the knife up, to stop up the bleeding, to keep you alive? Deal with that guy later on. For right now, you've got to be sure to take care of yourself. And that's what self-care means, is the awareness that regardless of what this person has done to me, I've been wounded. Whether they hurt me physically, emotionally, psychologically, financially, spiritually, whatever level, I've been wounded. But to run after them, literally, or just with all of my mental time and energy, is the equivalent of running after the person who stabbed you while you bleed to death in the street. Take those resources, take that energy, and use it to heal. That person's going to get whatever their karmic due is. We're not the karmic police. We don't have to make sure that people get their karmic due. And that brings us into this L of letting go. And that's why it's so critical. Because if I don't let go, I'm literally moving through life with the knife in my side. And that brings us to the last part, which is the how. So how do we let go? How do we forgive? And the first and most important element is we realize the importance of it. Because a lot of us don't forgive because we think, well, if I forgive, that means it's okay. And that is absolutely not true. We do not forgive because what the person did was okay. We forgive because if we don't, we are forever linked and locked to that act and to that person. And we literally, if we hold on with anger and pain and grudges and we redefine our lives based on that which has happened, we're literally taking our joy, our life, our freedom, our peace, our possibility, and offering it, sacrificing it on the altar of that person's narcissism, anger, ego, ignorance, whatever made them betray us. They've already stolen from us. Why now do we want to offer them everything else? So we forgive simply because whatever has happened to you, you deserve to be free. And I want to just conclude by sharing my personal story of forgiveness, lest anyone here think, well, easier said than done, or yeah, easy for her to say, she doesn't know what's happened to me, or anything like that. As Ariel alluded to in the introduction, and as I openly shared publicly for the first time ever in my memoir, Hollywood to the Himalayas, as she mentioned so sweetly, I was really betrayed in the midst of having all of the privilege and opportunity and blessings and all of that I had growing up. I was also very severely sexually abused. I was then abandoned. My biological father sexually abused me and then literally said he never wanted to see me again and walked out of my life. And that manifested later in my life in severe bulimia, in depression, and anxiety, and a whole host of ways that we deal with the pain that we suffer. And when I got to India at 25, and as Ariel mentioned, I was not a seeker. I would love to have said I was, but I wasn't. I got there and met this incredible being who became my guru. And I asked him about fear. I lived with fear and stress and tension. And he said to me, you fear because you don't trust. And I told him my story. Here's why I don't trust. Here's what's happened to me. How can I trust? And he says to me, are you going to take that to the grave? Are you going to give it up on your deathbed? And I was like, God, no, of course not. I was only 25. And he said, are you going to let it go a month before you die, maybe a week before you die. He said, you're waiting for someone to come in and draw the line and tell you you can be done. No one will. And he said, you can carry it to your grave, or you can let it go tonight. And he said, I want you to stand in the sacred river Ganga. And I want you to give all of your pain, all of your anger to this river we worship as the mother goddess. Give it to her. And I want you to forgive your father. And I, of course, thought impossible, like rivers just don't sweep away that kind of pain. But I did it out of respect for this incredible being who had suggested it, and just out of a commitment to sincerity. But I knew it wasn't going to work. And I stood in that river and I prayed and I cried and I prayed and I cried. And I gave all of the pain and all of the anger that I could dredge up from inside me. I gave it to her. And I can tell you 27 years later, September will be 27 years since I moved to India. It worked. She took it. And I share this story with you because if I can do it, so can you. It may not be the Ganga for you. It may be the tree in your backyard, the base of that tree in the soil. It may be another river, a stream, a lake, the ocean, a mountaintop. It may be in front of an image of the divine, something sacred to you. But have a ritual and literally just offer it. Dive deep, pull up as much as you can, and offer it. Offer it into fire. Offer it into water, offer it into soil. The universe will take it if you are ready to let it go. And that is not, my beautiful friends, in conclusion, it's really important to just emphasize lastly, that is not denial. It is not repression. It is not spiritual bypass. Spirituality does not say, thou shalt suffer forever. Thou shalt hang on to every bad thing that's ever happened to you, lest someone point a finger and say, you're spiritual bypassing. That's not what it means. Letting go, forgiving. Look at the life stories, whether it's Christ or the Buddha. They are stories of forgiving, stories of letting go. This is what we are meant to do, so that we can actually embrace and open ourselves, as Holly does so beautifully in the book. Open ourselves to that which life offers us. So I could go on all day, but it's time to stop. It's been such a beautiful joy to be with you. So much gratitude to Ariel for not only writing this beautiful book, but for bringing us all together today and for giving me this beautiful opportunity to be with you, and with deep, deep prayers from my heart to yours, that you may find that freedom, which is your birthright, which is your true self. And you can. And so, so, so much love to you all.
Thank you, Savi G. That was so beautiful. And if you want to get more Savi G, her website is savig.org, and I'm going to spell it for you. It's SAD as in dog, H, V as in Victor, I, J as in Jack, I, savig.org. And she's easy to find. She does satsangs on a regular basis. And as you experience for yourself. She knows a lot about healing and love and spirituality and compassion. And if you love a good read, get her book, Hollywood to the Himalayas. So Savi, thank you, thank you, thank you. I feel so blessed, and I hope I'll be seeing you in a few weeks.
Yay. So much love to you.
All right, take care. Okay, everybody. Now, we have a couple of drawings, and I want to get, there's 4 altogether. And the first one is winning a Vedic astrology reading with Carol Allen. Carol Allen, who's one of the best Vedic astrologers on the planet, and she's also a love and relationship expert. And my friend Christine here put all of your names into something called a randomizer and pulled the winner. So the winner of the Carol Allen astrology reading is Zara Lalani, and I'm going to spell it Zahra, second name Lalani. And we will reach you by email. So Zara, oh, you're here. Great, fantastic. Zara, you will be getting a in-depth 90-minute reading with Carol Allen. And the second winner, which will be for a 1-hour Zoom consult with me, a love consult, is Taylor Neville 13. Taylor, Taylor, Neville, Neville 13. And we will email you to set up a 1-hour coaching love Zoom with me. Okay, we have 2 more that we're going to be giving away later. One is a naughty reading. For those of you who read The Love Thief, you know what a naughty reading is. But next, I want to introduce you to my friend Debbie Silber, Dr. Debbie Silber. And today's a really special day in Debbie's life. She is the founder and creator of the National Forgiveness Day, which starts next week on September 1st. And Debbie, let's bring you on. I know that you've been speaking about this. How was your morning talking about national forgiveness?
It was great. First of all, hello, everybody. So good to see you. Sadhvi, that was absolutely beautiful, the words you shared. It was, National Forgiveness Day is exciting. It's just a day to move towards forgiveness because of how damaging it is to us physically, mentally, and emotionally. Not saying it's easy, but it's important to move towards for sure.
Good. All right. Well, before we let you get started, I'm just going to give your official bio here. Dr. Debbie Silber is the founder of the PBT, which is the Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute. She is a holistic psychologist, a health, mindset, and personal development expert. She's the author of Trust Again, and she is the 2-time #1 international best-selling author of The Unshakable Woman, and another book called From Hardened to Healed. So Debbie, thank you for joining us, and please, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Can I share the story about me reading your incredible book?
I would love that.
Okay. So Ariel, we had been in touch because she had questions about betrayal and the all of the stages and steps, and I'm going to share all of it. And so I wanted to read her book and just give any suggestions or insight that I could come up with. So I do a lot of traveling, and I said, oh, this will be perfect. I'll read it on the plane from California to New York. I have a bunch of hours. I will spend the time and read that. So I text my husband saying, because he was picking me up at the airport, I'll text you when I take off. This way, when my flight's gonna land. Okay, no problem. And then a long time later, he texted, he says, okay, I'll see you at whatever time. And I said, well, wait a second. No. I'll text you when the plane takes off. And he said, Debbie, the plane has been flying. I was so engrossed in this book, I didn't even know the plane took off. That has never in my life happened. So if that doesn't say it right there, I don't know what does. Anyway, it's phenomenal. So if you have not gotten your copy, get it. It's brilliant. And Ariel and I have spoken about betrayal. That is, fortunately and unfortunately, my wheelhouse. I've been in business over 30 years, health, mindset, personal development. And then I had a really painful betrayal from my family. And I thought I did everything I needed to do to heal from that. And then it happened again a few years later. This time it was my husband. And I'm watching the chat and I'm seeing some of the comments. If you've been through any type of betrayal, you know how heartbreaking it is, how shocking it is. You know, this was the person, or these were the people who gave you a sense of safety and security. So when this is the person, or these are the people, to shatter that very sense of safety and security, it's traumatizing. And that's exactly what happened to me. Well, that was the deal breaker. So I got him out of the house, and here I was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, a thriving business, and a book wasn't helping me out of this jam. I needed a whole PhD in it. So I enrolled in a PhD program, and it was in transpersonal psychology, the psychology of transformation and human potential, because I was changing so much, I didn't quite understand what was happening. He was too, wasn't ready to look at that. And then it was time to do a study. So I studied betrayal. What holds us back? What helps us heal, and what happens to us physically, mentally, and emotionally when the people closest to us lie, cheat, and deceive. I honestly was just trying to heal. I had no idea, but this study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changed everything we know about healing and betrayal. And I'll share them briefly. And I want to share how you can see Holly's movement towards healing and forgiveness by one of the discoveries. So the first discovery was that betrayal is a different type of trauma. And if you've been through death of a loved one, or you've been through disease or natural disaster, you would know there's something about betrayal that feels different. Well, I thought that, but I didn't want to assume it was the same for all my study participants. So I asked them, if you've been through other traumas besides betrayal, does it feel different for you? Unanimously, they said, oh my gosh, it's so different. And here's why. Because it feels so intentional. We take it so personally. So the entire self gets shattered and has to be rebuilt. Think about it. Rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust, they're all shattered and have to be rebuilt. And think about it. If you lose someone you love, you grieve, you're sad, you mourn the loss, life will never be the same. You don't necessarily question the entire relationship. You don't question your trust, your ability to trust. You don't question your sanity. With betrayal, you do. So that type of healing needed its own name, which is now called post-betrayal transformation, the complete and total rebuild of your life and yourself after an experience with betrayal. The second discovery, we discovered that there's actually this collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal, it's now known as post-betrayal syndrome. And we've had over 95,000 people take our post-betrayal syndrome quiz to see to what extent they're struggling. And a few things about that. We've all been taught time heals all wounds, right? I have the proof that when it comes to betrayal, that's not true, because there's and you know this if you've experienced it, there's a question on the quiz that says, is there anything else you'd like to share? And people write things like, my betrayal happened 35 years ago. I'm unwilling to trust. My betrayal happened 10 years ago. Feels like it happened yesterday. My betrayal happened 40 years ago. I could still feel the hate. So we know that when it comes to betrayal, unless and until healing is intentional and deliberate, it will follow you around like a shadow. And I was reading the comments, and for many of you, that's exactly been your experience. I want to briefly share. Every couple of months, I pull the stats from the quiz to see where people land. And I want you to know how damaging betrayal can be. And Holly had a lot of these symptoms. I'm going to share some of them. So now imagine this is men and women, just about every country's represented. Ready? Listen to the numbers here. 78% constantly revisit their experience. 81% feel a loss of personal power. 80% are hypervigilant. That's exhausting. 94% deal with painful triggers. And if you've ever had triggers, you know how debilitating they can be. The most common physical symptoms: 71% have low energy, 68% have sleep issues, 63% have extreme fatigue. You could sleep a whole night, you wake up, you're exhausted, your adrenals have tanked. 47% have weight changes. So maybe in the beginning, you can't hold food down. Later on, you're emotionally eating, you're using food for comfort. 45% have a digestive issue, and that could be anything: Crohn's, IBS, diverticulitis, constipation, diarrhea. The most common mental symptoms: 78% are overwhelmed, 70% are walking around in a state of disbelief, 64% are in shock, 62% can't concentrate. So just imagine that. You can't concentrate, you have a gut issue, you're exhausted. Now you first have to go to work. Now you have to raise your kids. That's not even emotionally. Emotionally, 88% experience extreme sadness. 83% are very angry. And you can bounce back and forth between those two emotions all day long. And I know many of you have, if you've been betrayed. 80% have anxiety. 79% are stressed. Just a few more. Here's why I wrote the book, Trust Again. 84% have an inability to trust. 67% prevent themselves from forming deep relationships because they're afraid of being hurt again. 82% find it hard to move forward. 90% want to move forward, but they don't know how. As staggering as those numbers were, to me, this is what's even crazier. Those numbers aren't necessarily from a recent betrayal. That's from that parent who did something awful when you were a kid. That's from that girlfriend or boyfriend who broke your heart in high school. So think about this. That person may not know, care, remember. They may not even be alive. And here we are decades later with those symptoms because of something that happened decades ago. Now, the good news is you can heal from all of it. And that was the third discovery. And what was discovered was, while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many people do, if we're going to fully heal, and if you read the book, you know Holly's story. If we're going to fully heal, going from those symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome to that completely rebuilt place of post-betrayal transformation, we're going to go through 5 now proven predictable stages. And what's even more exciting about that is we know what happens physically, mentally, and emotionally at every stage, and we know what it takes to move from one stage to the next. Healing is entirely predictable. And I'd love to briefly share what those 5 stages are. It's all we do within the PBT Institute. It's what's in Trust Again. It's what Holly went through. You'll see it right here. So stage 1 is before it happens. And if you can imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. What I saw with everybody, me too, was this heavy lean on the physical and the mental, thinking and doing, and kind of neglecting or ignoring the emotional and the spiritual, feeling and being. Well, if we only have 2 legs of a table, easy for that table to topple over, and that's us. Stage 2, the scariest of all of the stages: shock, trauma, D-Day, discovery day. And this is the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. And think of your story, or think of Holly, what she had gone through and where she was in this stage 2. And here's where you just received the news that has forever changed your life. It's like the person took a mask off and reveals who they've really been. Shock. You're absolutely shocked. So you've ignited the stress response. You're now headed for every single stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. Your mind is in a complete state of chaos and overwhelm. You cannot wrap your mind around what you just learned. This makes no sense. And your worldview has been shattered. Your worldview is your mental model, the rules that govern you, that prevent chaos. Trust this person. Don't go here. These are the rules. And in one earth-shattering moment, every rule you've held to be real and true is no longer. The bottom is bottomed out on you, and a new bottom hasn't been formed yet. This is terrifying. But think about it. If the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? You'd grab hold of anything or anyone you could to stay safe and stay alive. And that's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. It's the most practical out of all of the stages. If you can help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this experience? Where do I go? Who can I trust? How do I feed my kids? Here's the trap though. Stage 3, by far, hands down, is the most common place we get stuck. And look for yourself in this if this is where you are. Here's why. Once you've figured out how to survive your experience, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma of where we just came from, we're like, We think it's good. And because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we don't know there's a stage 4 or stage 5. Transformation doesn't even begin until stage 4. But because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we plant roots here, we park here. We're not supposed to, but we don't know that. And 4 things happen. The first thing is we start getting all these small self benefits, that secondary gain. We get to be right. We like being right. We get our story. We get someone to blame. We get a target for our anger. We get sympathy from everyone we tell our story to. And on some level, we're not getting much else, so we take it. And so we plant deeper roots. Again, we're not supposed to, but we don't know that. And now because we're here longer than we should be, the mind starts doing things like, well, maybe you're not that great. Maybe you deserved it. Maybe this, maybe that. So we plant deeper roots. Again, we're not supposed to, but we don't know. Now that we're here longer than we should be, and these are the thoughts we're thinking, well, this is the energy we're putting out. Like energy attracts like energy. So now we start calling circumstances and people and relationships towards us to confirm, yep, this is where we belong, right? This is when you join that lame support group. This is where you sabotage your growth so you don't outgrow that betrayer because it's just so familiar. It gets worse, but I'll get you out of here. Because it feels so bad, but we don't know there's anywhere else to go, right here, we start numbing, avoiding, distracting. We start using food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, keeping busy, anything to numb, avoid, and distract ourselves from what's so painful to feel or face. So think about it. We do it for a day, a week, a month. Now it's a habit, a year, 10 years, 20 years. And I can see someone 20 years later and say, that emotional eating you're doing, that drinking, that numbing in front of the TV, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? And they would look at me like I'm crazy. And they would say, it happened 20 years ago. All they did was put themselves in stage 3 and stay there. Does that make sense? Anyway, if you are willing, willingness is a big word right here. If you are willing to let go of the small self benefits, grieve, Savi mentioned grieving, huge place right in this one place, mourn the loss, bunch of things you need to do. You can move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. Here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo what happened, but I control what I do with it. Right there in that decision, you're starting to turn the stress response down. You're not healing just yet, but you just stopped the massive damage you'd been creating in stages 2 and stage 3. Stage 4 feels like if you've ever moved. If you've ever moved to a new house, office, condo, apartment, whatever, your stuff's not all there. It's not quite cozy yet, but you're like, okay, we can do this. It feels like that. But think about it. If you were to move, you don't take everything with you. You don't take the things that don't represent who you're now ready to be in that new space. And what I found was there's this one spot in moving from stage 3 to stage 4, where if your friends weren't there for you, you don't take them with you. If they don't rise, they don't come. It's like all those things that you just don't bring with you to that new space. You are intentionally and deliberately deciding who and what deserves to be with you in this next iteration and evolution of you. Anyway, when you're in this new space, you make it cozy, you make it mentally home, you move into the 5th most beautiful stage. And this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body starts to heal, self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise, things like that. You didn't have the bandwidth for that earlier. Now you do. The mind is healing. You're making new rules. You're making new boundaries based on the road you just traveled. And you have a new worldview based on what you see so clearly now. And the 4 legs of that table in the beginning, it was all about the physical and the mental. By this point, we're solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages. It is so common and if you remember Holly's journey, you saw her moving through the 5 stages. And it is so common. I don't want to give away if you haven't read it, but in stage 5, what I will say is what we typically see. Here's where you'll see health, a new level of health. We see new relationships with the person who hurt you in a very different way, or with someone totally new. You're ready for that now. We see new businesses being birthed. We see new passion projects. You didn't have the access to that when you were in your trauma, but as you move forward, you do. And healing and rebuilding is always a choice. whether you rebuild, and just to close the loop on my story, whether you rebuild yourself and move on. And that's what I did with my family. It just wasn't an option to rebuild with them. And if the situation lends itself, if you're willing, if you want to, you rebuild something entirely new, from the ground up new, with the person who hurt you. And that's what I did with my husband. So not long ago, as to completely transform people, we married each other again. New rings, new vows, new dress, and our 4 kids is our bridal party. You know, but betrayal will show you who someone truly is. It also has the opportunity to wake them up to who they temporarily became. But I'll tell you, there were 3 groups in the study that did not heal. And I want to share this because if this is where you are, I want you to know why it's been especially hard. And this is what's holding you back. The first, this was the group that they had their story, they were sticking with it. They were betrayed, period. The second group, this was the group that was numbing, avoiding, distracting. So maybe they ran to the doctor who put them on a mood stabilizer or anti-anxiety medication. They were emotionally eating, they were numbing, they were drinking, whatever it was. It may have made the day a bit easier to get through, not without a price. They didn't heal nearly as quickly as the ones who just put their heads down and said, I'm not picking it up until I am out the other side. And the third group, this was the group where the betrayer had very little consequences. So whether it was out of fear of breaking up a family, financial fear, religious reasons, that was a big one, they did everything to turn the other cheek, look the other way. And I saw 2 things with this group. Number one, it was a further deterioration of the relationship. And 2, this group was the most physically sick. Your broken heart can't take that. It's just too hard. But what I see so often is there's such a fear of that death and destruction of the old, but that's the only way you birth the new. And I'm going to show you something, and you will remember this for your whole life. This is where we typically are, right? And then there's a betrayal, and we're so brokenhearted. We're so upset. We just want this pain to go away. So we do this, right? And we wonder why we have repeat betrayals. It's because this is not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to do the work to heal. So this is what is in our best interest to do. You get betrayed, and then you make the decision, I'm going to heal physically, mentally, and emotionally. Now, if you are so committed to this person, what I see over and over again is we will sabotage our healing because we don't want to outgrow this person, but we like it up here. So then we get frustrated and we say, well, why aren't they doing this? Because they're not ready. But the whole idea is you do this. Now, a few things happen. Right? A few things happen. This person may say, I better step up my game to meet the strength of this person. And then you have a completely different 2.0 relationship up here. That's what I did with my husband. The other thing that happens is you do this work. They do not. You know what you're working with, and you kind of get this, like, ooh, you know. The other thing is you do this. This is where they live. And eventually you go this way. But what I see so often is the fear of outgrowing the other person. So we sabotage ourselves. So what I invite you all to do is to prevent sabotaging yourself. You make friends. You have groups of people up here because they will hold you to a higher standard. And it will prevent you from thinking, but wait a second, all my people are here. Right? Like that lame support group that you join where the only thing you have in common is your pain and you commiserate together, the Ain't It Awful Club. No, when you meet people here and you hold yourself here, this can't help but show up, whether it's that person who originally was here or someone entirely new. And I'd love to teach you something else because this is something we teach within the PBT Institute. And it's how do you know if it's safe and in your best interest to heal and rebuild with someone or to move along. And again, use this to reference where Holly was so you can see, knowing the characteristics of of a partner that she was interested in. See what she would have known if she knew this ahead of time and what she would have done. So I call this the window of willingness. And this is the likelihood of healing and rebuilding, or healing and moving along. So now imagine a window, and it's the widest open, and we'll call this level 1. And this is where we're the most likely to heal and rebuild with someone. Again, we don't have to, but the most likely. And level 1 looks like this. That person is taking complete and total responsibility. They own it. There's remorse, there's regret, there's apology, there's restitution. Go back to the book. Did you see that with Holly's partner, right? So that's best case scenario right there. Now, again, you don't have to do anything with that, but you have a greater likelihood of rebuilding something new when that's what you receive. And it may sound something like this. I am so sorry for the pain I caused. I can't even imagine how much I hurt you. What can I do to make it right? Now, when it comes to betrayal, it's going to take a lot more than that, but you're off to a good start. You're going to feel the window closing a bit with level 2. And you know it's coming when you hear the word because. Well, I did it because, blah, blah, blah. I said it because, blah, blah. You may still be willing to listen, but do you notice it doesn't feel as good as when you got that level 1, taking full and complete responsibility. You still have something to work with. It doesn't feel quite as good. Feel the window closing a little bit more with level 3. You know it's coming when you hear the word you. Well, I did it because you, da, da, da. I said it because you, da, da. This is crazy making. This is gaslighting, narcissism 101 stuff. This is the stuff, the kiss of death right here, everybody, is when you start believing it. And if you've been walking around with your pad and pen, say, no, but you said that last Tuesday, don't you remember? And you're trying to prove and explain, and you will find, you will have all those symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome, because you're banging your head against a wall and completely wasting your time. At this point in that person's level of consciousness, they're incapable or unwilling to own any of this. So that's level 3. Level 3 is close cousins with level 4. Level 4, the window is completely shut. And this is denial. And it sounds like this. I don't even know what you're talking about. You are crazy. You really should get some help. And so when it comes to level 1, level 2, you have something to work with. Again, if you choose. When it's that level 3 and level 4, you heal yourself and you move along. Who knows what'll happen later on, but at this point in time, you are completely exhausting yourself, making yourself sick, trying to prove, trying to convince, trying to explain. And this is where repeat betrayal lives. And I'll end with this. How do you know if you haven't healed from a betrayal? Classic signs. We see it in health, in work, in relationships. In relationships, I'll see it in one of 2 ways. And, the first way is going to be a repeat betrayal. The face has changed, but it's the same thing. And you think, I keep going from boss to boss to boss, friend to friend to friend, partner to partner to partner. Is it me? Yes, it is. Not in that it's your fault, in that it's your opportunity. There is a profound lesson waiting to be learned. You are lovable, worthy, and deserving. You need better boundaries in place, whatever it is. Until and unless you get that, you're going to have opportunities in the form of people to teach you. The second way we see it, and see if this is you, we put the big wall up. We're like, nope, been there, done that. No one's getting close to me again. And we think it's coming from a place of strength. It's not. It's coming from fear. You were so brokenhearted. Your heart was so shattered. Trust was so shattered that you would rather keep anybody and everybody at bay than take the risk of putting yourself in that place of vulnerability and getting hurt again. That's an unhealed betrayal. We see it in health. We keep going to the most well-meaning doctors, coaches, healers, therapists to manage a stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. At the root of it is an unhealed betrayal. Like, for example, you heard 45% of every digestive, 45% of everybody who's been betrayed has a gut issue. So you can go to the best gut doctor on the planet, right? Doing the most wonderful work. But if at the root of it is an unhealed betrayal, they're not getting to the root, right? Because the root is that unhealed betrayal. And we see it at work, right? You deserve that raise or promotion, but your confidence was shattered. So you don't have the confidence to ask. Or you want to be that collaborative partner, that team player, right? But the person you trust the most proves untrustworthy. How can you trust that boss, that coworker, that collaborative partner? So it shows up everywhere. The good news is you can heal from all of it. You know, I always say that betrayal is one of the most painful of the human experiences. And, you know, because this is, like I said, the person or the people who really truly gave you this foundation of safety and foundation of trust. So healing from it truly gives you the opportunity to create an entirely new identity. You take everything you love, you leave behind everything that no longer serves, and you create a version of yourself that never would have had the opportunity to exist had that not happened. And that's trauma well served. And here's what it looks like. And then I'm going to hand it over to Ariel. If you can, I use the example explaining resilience and transformation. Resilience you need for your everyday, bouncing back, restoring. Transformation, which is what betrayal lends itself to, is a whole other thing. So imagine there's a house, an old house, and let's say the house needs a paint job, and you paint. That would be resilience. You're restoring it, bringing it back. Let's say it needs a new boiler. You get a boiler, right? That would be restoring, you're bringing it back. Here's trauma and transformation. A tornado comes by, levels the house. A new paint job is not going to fix it, and a new boiler is not going to fix it, and both won't fix it. Now, here's the thing. You have every right to stand there and kick and scream and mourn and cry over the loss of your house. And you're completely justified. And you can call all your friends over and say, isn't this the most horrible thing you've ever seen? And you'd be right. And they would agree. And you have every right to mourn the loss of your house until your last breath. However, should you choose to rebuild your house, you don't have to, but if you choose to rebuild your house, why would you build the same one, right? There's nothing there. Why not give it everything the old house didn't have? Why not make it bigger, better, more beautiful, whatever it is for you? That's the opportunity. And when you think of the book, and again, I don't want to give it away, but when you look at Holly's life, in the end, that was exactly what she did. She created a magnificent house, and that's the opportunity available to all of us.
Thank you, Debbie. We have a few more minutes and I'd like to take some questions. But before I do, one of the things that we're doing for a drawing today is giving away part of your program. Would you describe what that is?
Yes. So, you know, I did the study. I know what worked. And so I put the 5 stages into a program and it blew up. And then everybody wanted to work with me. And I said, well, how do I leverage that? And how do I get the 5 stages in everybody's hands? So I created our certification and that went crazy. And then I said, okay, I know what works and I know what doesn't work. What would happen if we put everything that works under one roof, excluding everything that doesn't work? And that's the PBT Institute. So within the PBT Institute, we have our certified coaches who are all certified in the 5 stages, but they specialize in narcissism, in reconciliation, in divorce, in self-growth, everything that we go through. We have, they teach live daily classes and we have private sessions where members have with them. We have our signature program, which literally moves you through the 5 stages. We have, support is crucial, but the right type of support. So everybody in there lifts and inspires. And then we have master classes of people you can't get appointments with. They just love serving our community. And it's everything to help someone heal physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. So what we're offering your incredible group is 1 month within the PBT Institute, having access to all of it.
Great. And so it's the pbtinstitute.com. P as in Peter, B as in boy, T as in Tom, thepbtinstitute.com. And where can they take the quiz? How can they get the quiz?
The quiz is right on the site as well. You'll see quizzes, but what I would love everybody to do is participate in National Forgiveness Day, September 1st. We're having a free 21-day experience where it's a social experiment. We want to see, can we go from angry, bitter, and resentful to more forgiving and free with intention and group support in 21 days. So we're doing it together, and I'm going to be sharing really powerful stories and activities and everything that can help someone move. And that's just nationalforgivenessday.com.
Nationalforgivenessday.com. Okay, get to that. And the quiz is on the homepage. All right, one of the questions that has come in from Alita, she's saying, when the person is an aging parent and a narcissist, and you need to remain in the relationship, this is where I'm stuck.
Yeah. And it's so hard, family, anything that has to do with family and partners, it gets so complicated. But here's what I recommend. You want to protect yourself as best you can. So whether you go into that experience with this protective bubble, whether you, this was something that really helped me as it related to my family. And this may serve. One day, I always have a lot of dogs because they give all that oxytocin and unconditional love. And one day I looked at them and I said, I would never expect them not to be dogs. They're dogs. They do what dogs do. Why in the world am I expecting my family to ever be anything other than who they've consistently they've been? And it really helped me. And so one thing that helped me, because listen, you do whatever works. So that reframe helped me. And I've shared this with a lot of our members. This has helped them too. If a monkey were jabbering at you, you wouldn't get angry. That's what monkeys do. So how would it be if that person, that loved one who happens to be a narcissist, is jabbering? And if you really sort of to yourself thought of it like, well, there's just a monkey jabbering, and you don't need to share that with them, but as a way for you to get through it or have that protective bubble. But here's what I would, a mantra. And there are a few mantras. One is this, and Savi mentioned karma, and there's a saying that we have within PBT, and it serves, and it's this: it's closure is our job, justice is karma's, and that seems to help a little bit. But this is what I want you to also know, and if you have to repeat this a million times, it's worth it. Even though it happened to you, it's not about you. This was someone else's lack, scarcity, unhealed trauma, inability to see things appropriately, whatever it is. It's not about you. It's not about you, but that it happened to you. Here's your opportunity to use it as a catalyst for your transformation.
Great. And would you tell everybody again the titles of your books and where to get them?
Sure. So, and I have them right here, so I will share. This is our newest. This is the Rebuild Roadmap. We have a program for the betrayer too. And we have so many people who the betrayed goes into one program, our reclaim program, the betrayer goes into our rebuild program, and they come out as two very different people. And I work with the betrayers, and I'm not easy on them at all. And it's really funny because then I'll meet with the betrayed and they'll say, oh my gosh, it's like the person I met in high school. And I'm giggling to myself because I told them exactly what to say and do. And then here's one, Trust Again. Trust Again has, The Unshakable Woman. The Unshakable Woman has a workbook that goes with it. This is the one I would recommend if you're going through betrayal. Trust Again. This maps out the 5 stages. It has my own personal story in it. And so Trust Again is there. And if you find you're struggling in stage 3, the most common place we get stuck from hardened to healed is just for stage 3. I wrote that because the worst of it is over. You owe it to yourself to experience that transformation.
And all of your books are on your website? Are they also on Amazon?
They're on the site, and then they link to Amazon. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for sure, I think a lot of you are going to want to read Trust Again as a starter thing. Let's see. Does anybody have one burning question for Debbie that you want to put in the chat? We've got time for one more question. Anyway, somebody did write in the chat, Debbie, they can't wait to watch the replay so they can slow down the speed so they can.
Sorry about that, everybody.
Fast enough. No, that was absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. One of the reasons I put today together was because when I wrote the book, I wasn't thinking long term. The book was like a movie in my head, and I had no choice but to write it. And then after I wrote it, I started getting calls from readers saying, you wrote this book for me. And it's like, well, now what's your name again? I don't even know you. And that's when I started to see that there was this sort of big secret out there that most women have suffered at the hands of a toxic narcissist. And somehow I captured all their pain and suffering and anger. And I was able to capture it because not only have I experienced it, but all my closest friends have. So that was the purpose of today. It's like, well, I'm really lucky. You and Savi are two good girlfriends of mine. I can get expert advice picking up the phone, but that was why I wanted to make you available today. I think I have one more question for you.
I will say, we have many men within the PBT Institute. Betrayal does not just happen to women. It is something that we see. It happens all the time. So it's just as painful.
Oh, terrible. All right, let's see who has won the 1 month of the PBT Institute course. And it is Simone HIK09. Simone HIK09. And if you're here, say hi in the chat. If not, we will email you and connect you to Debbie's team. So Debbie, thank you so much. This has been phenomenal. Everybody again, thepbtinstitute.com or nationalforgivenessday.org. Got it?
.com.
.com.
Nationalforgivenessday.com.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. All right. Debbie, let me know when you're in town. We'll go for a walk or have lunch or something.
I'm in town. Let's do it.
Oh, great. Okay, we'll do it fast. Okay, so while we're waiting, our next guest is going to be Dr. Q. And if you've read the book, that name will be familiar to you because in the book, Holly, our heroine, experiences this ancient Indian form of I don't even know how to describe it right now. It's called a nadi reading. And it's written on a palm leaf 5,000 years ago, and it tells you all about your life. And Dr. Q actually can make that available to you via Zoom. But until he joins us, there he is, Dr. Q, you're here.
Yes, indeed.
Hi, I was just telling them who you are. Well, let me tell them officially who you are.
Sure.
My dear friend, Dr. Q, is the co-founder of the Indian Palm Leaf Reading Institute. This is the real Dr. Q from the book, and he's going to be sharing with you all about the mysterious and wondrous nadi readings. In 2013, he nearly died, and then he had a nadi reading that was life-changing. I'll tell you about that. And he was told while he was having his nadi reading that one of his purposes in life was to bring nadi readings from the East to the West, which he's now doing. So we will be giving away today a nadi reading with something very special. Dr. Q will be one of your interpreters while you're on the Zoom with the readers in India. So Dr. Q, I'm going to turn it over to you to explain to everybody what a nadi reading is.
There you go. Hello and good evening, everyone. I'm currently in Switzerland, in Zurich, and Ariel said if I can join. I said, absolutely, I will do my utmost. I just checked in 30 minutes ago, so I'm very happy that it all worked out perfectly fine. Yes, my name is Dr. Q, and I'm the founder of the Indian Palm Leaf Reading Institute, which is actually a foundation, a not-for-profit foundation. 10 years ago, I had no clue I would be here talking to all of you and having served thousands of people across the globe to get their nadi reading. Now, in case you haven't noticed yet, I'm a white guy. I have nothing to do with India, apart from traveling to India, doing yoga, enjoying spicy food. And I had a nadi reading 10 years ago. Now, first of all, I call this Indian palm leaf reading because I realized early on that no one in the West has any clue what it is that we're doing. So I tried to give it a literal name, Indian, hoping that people understand it comes from India. Palm leaf, hoping that people understand there is a palm leaf involved, not the palm of your hand or tea leaves. And yet I get still many messages asking me with a picture of their hand, can you please read my palm? I said, dude, read the website and then send us a message. And reading that there is some sort of a reading involved in all of that. But in India, nobody calls it Indian palm leaf reading. They call it Nadi reading or Nadi astrology, among other names. And Nadi has many meanings. Nadi means leaf, but it also means seeker, the person who seeks the message that was written for them several thousand years ago. It also means pulse, representing human life, or the exact moment in time when the message is divulged, not a day before, not a day later. So that is the intro. Now, you should know that I've been on a spiritual journey, if you wish, since I've been a teenager, because when I was 16, believe it or not, I was diagnosed with cancer. I knocked on heaven's door. It took me 3 years and 6 months as an inpatient to survive cancer. So when I was 16, you can imagine I was a God, why me? I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. And seeing people die in my room. And in 19, when they released me, finally being in remission, I said again, God, why me? And that was the beginning of my spiritual journey, I should say. And ever since that time, that's now, I had to say it because it gives away my age, more than 30 years, trying to pierce the veil, because already as a teenager, I realized there's way more than meets the eye, way more than that. We only get to see the tip of the iceberg. So I spent time with shamans in the Amazon, visited the most famous healers across the globe. Maybe you've heard of John of God, for example. Did Reiki healing, you name it, Vipassana meditation, all of it and more. And 10 years ago, I again knocked on heaven's door because I was attacked by a virus, way before Corona, that is. And I was diagnosed with myocarditis. I had an inflamed heart muscle with water in my heart sac, pneumonia, water in my lungs. And I went to the hospital thinking something is a little off with me, only to be told by the cardiologist, Dr. Moyad, you're very sick. You're lucky that you're alive. And then that day when he kept me at the hospital, I collapsed. They shoved me into the ICU. So again, them up there somehow did not want me yet to say bye-bye. I apparently have a mission to fulfill. So when I was at the hospital, my cancer hospital, where I was treated for cancer too, by the way, my girlfriend, the lady for whom I moved to Budapest, which is the capital city of Hungary. If you haven't been there yet, come and visit us. It's a beautiful city indeed. She told me, I connected the dots when I was in the ICU. I said, God, I quite don't understand. I had car accidents. I survived the revolution in Iran because I grew up in Iran, went to flee the country. Because we're not Muslims, would have been most likely executed, I should say. I said, God, why are you testing me? And so I connected the dots in the ICU, saying that this must have to do with karma. So when my girlfriend visited me in the ICU, I said, babe, I think that has to do with karma. And so she said, there is something you can do about it. And there is something called Nadi reading. And I said, what's that? And she said, well, I told you this already a year ago. And I said, that's impossible. I'm a sucker for anything spiritual. And that closes the circle for you, what we call it Nadi reading. The exact moment in time, not a day before, not a day later. At the time, I wasn't ready for it. But when I was in the ICU, I was ready to hear it. And by the way, I also read Deepak Chopra's book, The Book of Secrets, in which he talks about his own Nadi reading. That was 20 years ago. I read it. I don't even remember that I did, but I did. So I had a reading. And naturally, it blew my mind. And I don't say this lightly because I've done a lot of spiritual things, I'm telling you, more than most. So, and in the reading, the reader told me in a by sentence, oh, by the way, you're going to bring this to the West. So I thought he's kidding me because, again, I'm not an Indian at all. And yet, 10 years later, I'm here talking to you. So I had no clue would be here. So we started out very small because obviously when I shared my experience with my friends and family, they all wanted to get a reading, all of them. I said, wonderful, let's go to India. And that's when I realized that most Western people will never go to India. It's a no-go zone. To me, I'm a traveler. I've been to more than 100 countries. But then I realized India is a no-go zone for most and a magnet to a very small minority. So that's when I thought maybe in order for me to help people, we can do it over Skype. And that's the beginning of the journey. I was sitting in every reading because I realized that most people did not understand the Indian accent, the Indian English called Hinglish. And that is how the role of moderator came about, what Ariel was referring to. So in every reading that we do, we have 3 people that support you. The reader, who only speaks Tamil, the interpreter in India, we have an office in India, of course. By the way, in the southernmost state of India called Tamil Nadu. And Tamil Nadu looks kind of like California, if you wish. It's elongated. It's on the east coast of India, as opposed to California being on the west coast, with one big difference. There are 85 million people in that one state alone. And if there is one state that sticks out like a sore thumb in India, that will be Tamil Nadu, because they're Tamil people. And it's the only state within India that does not speak the common language called Hindi. So when an Indian outside of Tamil Nadu comes to Tamil Nadu, he's like a foreigner. So they revert back to Indian English. And it's also the most spiritual state in all of India, for a simple reason. No state has as many temples per capita as Tamil Nadu. And our office is in the central parts of that state. The capital is Chennai. You drive 5 hours south. In the central parts, boom, you'll find a small town called Vaitishvaran Koil. And the reason why I'm so detailed is, legend has it that several thousand years ago, and when Ariel calls, I'm at attention, of course, I brought this little picture, which I organized at a temple near our office. And you see 18 sages. We call them Maharishis. Maharishi, by the way, means great sage. And the guy in the center, his name is Agastya. And I brought a big picture of Agastya too. He's kind of like the GP of all Maharishis. He wrote the most leaves. So when you get your first reading, most likely it is an Agastya book. Now, legend has it that about 2,000 to 5,000 years ago, we do not know exactly because there is no written record, sages, these Maharishis, sat down in meditation, utilized the power of the gods that they knew, that would be Hindu gods, to be able to tap into the Akashic records and download a message for souls whenever they're ready and in need to receive the message. And then telepathically, they dictated the message to their disciples, and then they etched it on palm leaves, hence Indian palm leaf reading. And these leaves are stored in, those of you who can see me, are stored in books or bundles, and I brought a demo version here for you. Those leaves are written on, those messages were written on fresh leaves. You know, we're talking huge palm tree leaves, and then they cut them into, I don't know, 10, 15 inch long slices and about an inch or so wide, and then they etched the information onto the leaf. No ink at all. So a perfectly nature-preserving approach, I should say. We can all learn from them today too. And as the leaves dried up, the message came through. And similar souls traveled together in a book or bundle. And that's, one more time, a book or bundle. You're not related to them, but you are soul sisters, soul brothers. And the one thing that you have in common when and if you're in the same bundle is your thumbprint category type. I tried to be as succinct as possible. And these bundles are now stored in archives and libraries across, for the most part, southern India, in this one state called Tamil Nadu. Because of, Tamils traveled, you can today, of course, also find readers in Sri Lanka because there are Tamils there, in Bali because there are Tamils there too. But the hub is Vaitishvaran Koil, and our office is very close to Vaitishvaran Koil. And there are not just 1 or 2 archives, there are hundreds, if not thousands of them. So an Indian archive looks a little bit different to what you might be used to. You might be thinking of air conditioning, water dispenser, security guards. It's far from it. Those who have not been to India, it's primarily a hole in the wall. That is an archive in reality. And most of these archives are owned or run by families, reader families, that is. So that is the preface to all of that. Now, it's a 3-step process, and the process is the exact same as it has been for several thousand years. 3 steps. First will be the search for bundles. Then it will be the matching. Matching means we find your actual leaf within the bundle or book, and then the reading. Now, the secret in all of this lies in your thumbprint. Boom. You would submit your thumbprint to the reader. The reader will literally look at your thumbprint with through a magnifying glass to identify your category type. And once we know your category type, the search for a bundle book starts. Now, folks, it's a physical act. There is no computer involved. There is no register of any kind. That means the reader literally walks from one archive to the next. If he cannot find any bundles that would match your thumbprint category type, he would hop on his bicycle if he needs to go further away on his moped, if he has to go even further away on a public bus. So he travels quite a fair bit in order to find a bundle that matches your thumbprint category type. And every single leaf in a book shares the same thumbprint category type. Male or female, doesn't matter. Even people that aren't even born yet. So once he finds one, that means you got to be a little patient, and patience is a virtue, as we know, because the average search time is about 3 to 5 months. You got to be patient. Can it be that it's just 2-3 days? Yes, it can be, of course. But I don't want to tell you it's 2-3 days because you're going to bombard me with emails. Has it been found yet? No, just got to wait. Patience, please. The average search time, 3 to 5 months, give or take 3-4 months, 2 to 4 months. I cannot tell you, but you got to be a little patient. And then once the reader finds a book or bundle, he brings them to the office. So the first part, search, has come to an end. Matching and reading, if you were in India, you will go to the reader's office and you will sit across from him, as I did. And people say, oh, Dr. Q, it's so much more romantic to do it in person. Can I do it in India? I say always, yeah, go, my friend, go. You have no clue what the reality is, because reality means a hole-in-the-wall office. It's hot as hell, my friends. Mosquitoes. There is incense that blows your mind. You know, I had cancer and chemotherapy, so I'm extremely sensitive to any type of scent. I thought I'm dying in his little cubicle there. Well, how we do it is over Zoom, just like here, in the comfort of your home. You can sip a cup of coffee or tea. It's either hot, you can have the heater on when it's winter time, or you can cool it in the summer. So it's way more comfortable the way we do it. And by the way, folks, we're a not-for-profit foundation. I personally, Ariel knows, make zero money with this. It's a pure good karma work to give back to humanity. I have a real job, and that's the reason why I'm in Zurich today. So the whole purpose of our foundation is to provide ethical, authentic Nadi readings to seekers across the globe from the comfort of their home.
Dr. Q, I want to add a couple of things here, because
Sure.
Deepak Chopra took me to India in 2003 for my first Nadi reading. And when he says it's a hole in the wall, it's worse than a hole in the wall. We drove 6 hours into the rural parts of Tamil Nadu, into a forest, into a cement block room that had one single light bulb hanging from the ceiling and an outhouse. There was no computer. There was, no fax machine, none of that. And all I had done was submitted my left thumbprint in advance. And when I got there, it couldn't have been any hotter. It was like being in a sweat box. It was so hot in there. And there's this little skinny Tamil Nadu priest who doesn't speak English. And then there was a man named Babu, who was my interpreter, who spoke at best what we could call English, and I was in there for several hours as they went through the bundles, trying to find my bundle. And then went leaf by leaf till they found my leaf. And then gave me the most mind-blowing reading of my life, starting with the moment I was born and ending with explaining to me the date, time, and place and circumstances of my death, which they normally don't give, only if you ask. So that's what a Nadi reading is. Then a few years ago, Dr. Q contacted me and told me he was now making Nadi readings available by Zoom. And I was just like, oh my God, that's so much better than a 21-hour flight to India and a 6-hour drive into the middle of nowhere to sit in this horrible little room. So I did a Zoom Nadi reading, and I can tell you, it was as mind-blowing and as exact as the one that I did in India all those years ago. And I've now sent several of my friends to do the Zoom Nadi reading, all of whom have had their minds blown. So if this sounds like, if you feel drawn to do this, it's $500. Now, why $500? Because you just heard the description of what it takes to go and find the bundle, right? And then there's 2 to 3 hours that you're live on Zoom, not just with the priest who's reading it, not just with one interpreter, but 2 interpreters, because you need an interpreter for the interpreter. And with the one we're going to give away in a few minutes, Dr. Q is going to be your second interpreter. You can't actually buy that. That's not available on the site to get. You know, I just asked him as a favor to do this.
Anything
So-
for you. Anything for you.
And, you know, I've had lots of friends come back from India saying, I went to get a Nadi reading and it was terrible, because there, like everything in life, there are scams, and there are
Yes.
people who lie and don't do the right thing. So if someone said to me today, I want a Nadi reading, Dr. Q is the only one I know and the only one that I trust to send my friends to. Not that there aren't others out there. I don't know them, but I have heard horror stories from people who went online, who went on the internet and lost a lot of money. Let me think. There was one more thing I wanted to say about the Nadi readings. Well, I've lost it. Is there
That's okay.
anything you want to add to what I just said, Dr. Q?
Yes, you pay $100. That's important. Just $100 up front. That will cover the search. You pay $100, and then you submit your thumbprint. We send you an email. You need to do it online. You send it to us. It's a secure website, by the way. And the reader only knows your gender, because ladies left and gents right thumbprint. That's it. I know you, or I should say the ladies in the office know you, but the Indians, you can rest assured, do not know who you are. And based on your thumbprint and your gender, they will find the bundle. That's called the search. The matching and the reading are in a live Zoom call with 3 people supporting you. It takes about 3 to 4 hours. There's a lot of work involved, way more than you might think. Now, the matching means we find your leaf. Again, Ariel knows. The reader has no clue who you are because everything's written on that leaf. He will, in a successful matching, tell you, that's the mind-blowing part, your first name, your mother's first name, your father's first name, your date of birth, your time of birth, your week of birth, partner's name, X, several X or disease partners' names, kids how many, siblings how many, you know it's you, period. And that's what the rishis in their wisdom did to make sure that your intellectual mind today can accept that the message was written for you.
Yeah.
And
I want to say one more thing. You will get a recording of the entire
Of
Zoom.
course.
You'll get all of it, and you'll get other supporting papers. And the way you can sign up is go to this website, mynadireading.com. Nadi is
Yes.
N-A-D-I, mynadireading.com. Dr. Q, we only have another minute with you. What
okay.
else do we need to add?
The reading covers your entire life, all the aspects that are important to your human being. What's important, your life, no one's life is set in stone. They wrote these leaves to help you create a better life trajectory for yourself. It's not self-fulfilling prophecy. If you like what the reading tells you, you got to work forward to achieve what you can achieve. If you don't like it, because blocks have been identified, embrace them with all your heart as a blessing in disguise, because for every block identified, the rishis also give you remedies called pujas, and the real power in the reading are the pujas. Those must be taken verbatim, not the reading. That's the general direction.
Thank
So
you.
I kept it as short as I could. Yeah, it's a very
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so the website is mynadireading.com. Nadi is N-A-D-I. Thank you, Dr. Q. Okay, now you can stick on for another minute if you want, because we're gonna say who the winner of the Nadi reading with Dr. Q is, and we just pulled a name from the randomizer, and it's Devi WJB. Devi DEVI WJB @Hotmail is the name we pulled. If you're online, say hi. If you're not, don't worry. We will get a hold of you. Okay, so Dr. Q, I will intro you to the winner once we connect. Okay, now before I let all of you go, I have a really big announcement that I want to share with you. So for those of you who have been betrayed and are ready for new love in your life, if you feel healed enough and adventurous enough to manifest a new soulmate, in spring of 2024, from April 29th to May 6th, I'm taking a group of women to Italy. We're going to go to Tuscany and Venice for 6 days to immerse ourselves in high-level manifestation with proven techniques, prayers, processes, and rituals to manifest a soulmate. We'll be staying in a luxurious villa in Tuscany, surrounded by a pool and gardens and the rolling hills of Tuscany. And then we'll also be going to Venice. We'll be staying in the heart of Venice. And along the way, we'll have incredible day trips to Florence and Siena and Assisi. And we'll be going to wine tastings and olive tastings, all with the strong intention to manifest the love of our life, to have new love, a soulmate. So if that's something you want to do, go to my website. It's arielford.com/events. arielford.com/events. And my name is spelled Arielle. Also, if you haven't yet read my book, The Love Thief, my romantic spiritual thriller, I highly recommend you do it. You've met two of the stars of the book today, Savi G and Dr. Q are their real selves in the book. And of course, Dr. Debbie Silber, genius that she is, was an advisor to the book on dealing with betrayal. So I hope you got a lot of value out of this 2-hour thing. We'll be sending out a replay link. And if you ever want to reach me, it's my name @gmail.com. Thank you so much for coming.